like to welcome everybody to our March school board meeting. Call roll, Mr. Pastor.
Mr. Jewell,
Present.
Mrs. Lainhart, Mr. Duncan,
Here.
Mrs. McIntosh,
Here.
and Mr. Moore.
Here.
I'd like for everybody standing. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hood for the student program recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Mr. Moore, I got a couple of administrators here. First up, I want to have Gail French go up and give us a little bit of flavor of food service. What's going on in food service? No pun. That was bad.
We've had a busy winter. We have been going through 2 different audits at the same time. One being with procurement, one which is how we purchase things within the district and within the food service department, and one for the financial end of it, which is the ending of the last year's audit. Both of those have had everything turned in and submitted. I'm waiting to hear back from the financial one. They're kind of dragging their feet. Now, we had 7 days to get that one together, and it's taken them more than that to get back to us. The procurement one, I got all the stuff back telling us we were finished. We had to make a few policy changes in our department, things like how we purchase things, where we purchase them, who's responsible for the purchasing of those things, but we took care of all those, got all that documentation turned in, and got the thing that said, looks good, and everything's good. Luckily, we are part of the APC, so they had to deal with a big portion of that, of the bids and the contracts and all those things. And it's just, I guess, the OD and the USDA is looking for somebody who is responsible in the district, and that falls on the head of the food service department for our department, so that's what that's how I handle that from there. We are in good shape. We do have like $1,000 in charges right now, and we hope to be collecting some of those, but out of that, we buy t-shirts for our women a couple times a year, because they don't get paid a lot, so we try to do some nice things for them. So we came up with one this year that is, thank you for the memories. It's a Carlisle t-shirt, and it's going to have a date 1930 to 2020 when they tear down the buildings. And then it's got all 4 schools listed on the back. And what we weren't going to do anything without the buying for our women, but so many people were interested that we've turned it into a small little fundraiser so that we can put the money back into our budget, so that we can have a little account for when these people do overdraw their budget, and at the end of the year we have to make sure that we don't take money out of the USDA program to put back into our charges. We'll have a little bit of money to help with that, but that's where we are right now, but we're doing well. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it. Next up, a little bit of busy time for curriculum, so Carol McKinley.
Yeah, absolutely. That's her job. She's a good person.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. It's a pleasure to see you again. Curriculum has been very busy this year. We are in the middle of, towards the end of adopting a new math program for our 6, 7, and 8 building. And so on the back side of the cover sheet, it shows you a little bit about the process that we've gone through. We've done a very extensive investigation on this. We had some key features that we wanted to look at for a new program. It was a reflection of our test scores and areas where we felt we could up our game a little bit. number sense and modeling, making sure that we had a good amount of support for the new programs that we brought in. And we also wanted to see what kind of digital access that each program had to offer. We looked at a nonprofit foundation called edreports.org, which rates curriculums as how they align to Common Core, to get some that were highly recommended as alignment. We had vendor presentations for the 3 that we chose. And from that, we also got what we call Sandbox, which is basically access to their digital stuff so we could look at it and dig in and see what it was. Then I went on to research more what was going on in Southwest Ohio, what other districts were using, comparable size, some that were higher demographics, lower demographics, and to see so we had an idea of that. Then I got quotations from the different vendors. So the last piece that we had just completed is we just went to Mr. Hook, lovely, called the math tour, and we went to see each of the 3. And we spent a day with each one, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful, such a blessing that they're allowed to do that. They got to see firsthand how each program was being used in the classroom, had an opportunity to talk with not only administrators, but with teachers, not only about what the breadth of the curriculum was, but how it was to, onboarding and all that kind of thing. So now we're at the point where we are ready to make a decision. We've had one conversation last Wednesday. We're going to have another one this Wednesday. And I really kind of think that at that point there will be a winner that will come out. And I understand the process for that is I need to get with my instructional leadership team, get their blessing, and then I'll be bringing it to the administration to see what we need to see if it's okay with them. So that's kind of the math adoption. The second page is the curriculum. ODE has been very busy. They have revised all 4 curriculums. The social studies curriculums were revised and finalized just about 3 or 4 months ago. And those revisions will begin on the end of course exam in the year 2021. So the 2 courses that are involved with that are American history and government. The science revisions, again, were also just finalized this fall, and will affect the OSTD and the EOC, and that again will be in 2021. Tested grade areas in 5 and 8, and then high school biology. The English language arts revisions were finalized last year, and those revisions, which aren't real significant, are going to be on this year's test. And so we've had multiple meetings with language arts teachers, talking about what the changes are, making sure that they're not only doing the practice test, but they're highlighting those areas for changes. Same thing with the math department, where changes were advised last year. And so we've also had quite a bit of information sent out to all the teachers and talk with them about what the changes are. There's a couple of things that moved from one grade level to another. Most of the changes in both of these were just language, where they were just clarifying what was already in there, or they took something that was really lengthy and broke it down into parts. So there wasn't anything really dramatic in either one of them, but our teachers are ready, and I think they got the kids ready, so I think we're ready to go. The last piece I wanted to just share with you is regarding our gifts department. There's a position that's called a gift and intervention specialist, and it requires a separate license or endorsement. And that allows the teacher to teach any gifted subject from K to 12. So they can be the one to be servicing K to 12. And not only just in the classroom, but they can be facilitating the IEPs. They can also be doing professional development. And currently, we only had one up until just December, and that was Deanne Johnson. And she was at the middle school and was doing advanced language arts for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at the middle school. I'm excited that Katie Amos has just gotten her the GIS license as of December. And she's already proctored a book study in her building for professional development for her colleagues, which was very successful. And then in the summer, we have a 3rd person that's going to finish their degree, Elizabeth Middleton, and she currently is in 5th grade, ELA, and social studies teacher at Greg State. So as we go forward and we're looking at how we're going to do with master scheduling and those types of things with the new buildings, we'll certainly be taking a look at how we can best utilize those 3 people's talents. And I don't know if there'll be any changes in the way the programming will happen or not, but there could be. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time, we are slated for the visitor comments. If any visitors got, want to make a comment, state your name and your address, and limit it to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sean McAtee from 8440 Bobby Place in Carlisle. Have you all seen the recent video that's been passed around? Okay, I think you should see it. So I'm going to tell you where this video came from. My daughter didn't take this video. She didn't know anything about it. This came from a grandmother in Springwood who's upset because she feels like our school's unsafe. I feel the same way. Mr. Hook, did you share with the board? I don't know if you had a chance to, but I'm going to read you all an email that I sent on February 28th. This afternoon, Jim and I take a look at after school. We can see the challenges of the construction along with the pickup from parents and students leaving the parking lot. We saw some crazy behavior. Parents doing U-turns on Jamaica and kids in a hurry to get out of the parking to beat bus traffic. Even as far down as the junior high, kids on foot. Surprisingly, we saw no sign of anyone monitoring or guiding traffic. Olivia told us that only happens when the buses leave. Just want to bring this to your attention. That type of anticipation could bring problems, especially as spring approaches. We don't want any tragedies or accidents that could be prevented. So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it from parents. I'm hearing it from kids. Kids are leaving early. They're leaving earlier than they should be, so they can get to their cars, to get out of the parking lot because it's so dangerous. There is a grandmother that's had a car accident. She's very upset. It's being recommended that we start contacting the state. Because here's why. I realize we have to save money in every place we have to. But when we're spending millions and millions of dollars on a nice building, and we can't spend a few dollars a day to make sure somebody's out there monitoring traffic, and a kid gets ran over, God forbid, I hope that never happens, what are we going to do? I want to know who's going to be liable. Is that going to be a teacher, an interim principal, a superintendent, school board? Who's liable? When my husband and I, we're coming down Jamaica, we could not believe what we were seeing. Our own daughter running out to Jamaica to get in the car and saying, don't go in the parking lot. It's dangerous, and you're going to get trapped by the buses. I don't mind to get trapped by the buses, but I get that kids want to go home, right? Parents want to go home, teachers want to go home, all of that. But when you drive in and around, you cannot always see a child dart out in front of you. That's an issue, and that has got to be addressed. I don't know what's going on out here, but we've got marijuana back in the school. We've got fighting back in the school. These kids were talking, I had kids over at my house this weekend. They're like, oh, that would have never happened if Mr. Potter been there. First of all, they said that boy would have walked out in handcuffs. I don't know what consequences there are. Then we hear, well, our interim principal, he can't do anything. So, but the teachers are taking care of the building. Okay, I'm not real up on the teachers' contracts, but I'm pretty sure they're not responsible for managing the building. I think they're supposed to manage the classroom. So I'm concerned because Mr. Potter has supported this community. He supported my own son. On Friday, March 15th, Jim and I went down to Cincinnati with Shabbat's office. Mr. Potter wrote James a beautiful letter to receive the congressional nomination for the Naval Academy. It's a beautiful award, and Carlisle was mentioned in this meeting. There were 19 out of the Ohio Congressional District that got this award. That letter is in D.C. be our third principal this year. But I think what you all need to understand, we set some high expectations. I know there's things I don't know, but I hope that when we choose this next principal, it's not based on it's a yes sir, no sir. It's based on the fact that they're going to take care of the kids. Personally, I think you should bring Mr. Potter back. But you know, you're going to do what you got to do. But he's been in town, in businesses, telling people he's well and he's coming back. And we're hiring a new one. Why is that? There are politics involved, I think, for us not to be bringing him back. Something's going on. So I would also recommend, you all are being accused of editing your meetings. I don't recommend that right now. Let me tell you, there is a situation in Warren County Career Center that a young lady got an in-day school suspension for posting scripture in rebuttal to Pride Week. Some clergymen are involved. There were some kids pulled out of Carlisle Junior High. There's a lot more that's going on behind it. There is questions raised about the safety of this school and who is managing this building. So I'm just telling you, I don't know what your plans are for hiring, but I hope you hire somebody that's responsible.
We are.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to the treasury report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jewell. Just a few items this month. First, I need approval from the minutes from the regularly scheduled February 25th board meeting.
So motion. So moved. First one, Mr. Dunkman.
Second.
Mr. Moore, call roll, please.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
And Mr. Jewell.
Yes.
Secondly, I have the financial report, which was part of your packet. Again, no surprises. Just some of the things that are going on now with construction are getting a little bit more expensive now that there's more activity going on here. Larger purchase orders, larger bills being paid, but the bills are being paid as part of the bond issue as well as the state money. So, not affecting our general fund, whatsoever. Just a little intimidating when you're doing, purchase orders with two columns rather than one. So, if there's no questions, I just need approval for the financial report.
First by Mrs. McIntosh.
Second.
Second, Mr. Dunkman, call roll, please.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Next, we need approval for donations. We had a $1,000 donation to the high school for ACT books and a scholarship that will be determined later, and then a donation for special needs children in the elementary.
Need a motion?
So moved.
First by Mr. Moore,
Second?
by Mrs. McIntosh, call roll, please.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
And then lastly, we need to accept the tax and amounts and rates as determined and certified by the Budget Commission of Warren County for our fiscal year next year, beginning July 1, which was it's part of your package. It's nothing that we said, it's what the tax rates that the county sets for our levies that are in place.
Need a motion?
So moved.
First by Mr. Dunkman,
Second.
by Mr. Moore, call roll, please.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
And Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
That is my report for the month. Thank you very much.
Well, I will turn it over to Mr. Hook for your report.
Just real quickly, construction update, a couple of items of note. One, we'll be doing some more work in the student parking lot, so there'll be a portion of it that gets kind of cordoned off as they do that. They're going to try to do that. Obviously, when it's being used and leased, so that will be kind of striped off a little bit with some construction tape, but I think that's going to start. Could even be as early as Saturday, but for sure by the following So, but that'll be back in place when high school starts, that following Monday. Other construction updates, the weather has been in our favor, but they really some tremendous progress, worked on the weekends, been working late, getting a lot done. So they basically, where we're at, is the pads are, the soils have been prepared. They've actually started working on both the high school end, far north and the south, kind of working in towards the middle. They've been pouring foundations. So they've been pouring all last week. They had 4 days of pouring, and then they were pouring today, truck after truck after truck was going to get the foundations in. So it's starting to, you're starting to see the outline of the actual the building in the back. I took some pictures from on top of the high school, and so I'll get those up here in a day or two on the website. You can actually start seeing that. Then shortly they'll continue to work in, and it'll end up being in the whole pattern of the building. Actually, they'll start also doing pouring concrete onto the slab, creating the slab inside that. So as long as the weather continues to move, be somewhat favorable, we should probably be seeing masons out here probably that first week of April, first part of April. And there'll be a lot of, I guess there's quite a big couple of big crews. So it's exciting because that's when you start seeing that come up out of the ground, and so it's fun. It's fun, but it's busy. They've got a lot of plates going at the same time, and working with all those pieces. And we also had a zoning meeting Thursday evening at the city building. We have one left to do. We were approved for landscaping, so while that's going on, we're moving into some other pieces to meet code for that. We'll also be, the next meeting in April, I'll get that date, I can't remember right off the top of my head. We'll be meeting with and finalizing the electrical light sources on the outside. So I think that's really the big issues. We got one other piece that we have to, it's not housekeeping, but for whatever the reason is, we've got to make sure that all of our parcels of land are named the same. So what does that mean? We have 3 parcels of land that our school sits on in Warren County and 1 in Montgomery County. That's what's on the deeds. But if you go back in time when those were donated, some would say Board of Education, Carlisle. Some would say Board of Education, Carlisle School. Say Board. Long story short, we have to get those all in the same deed name. So it'll be Board of Education, Carlisle Local Schools, and that's going on as well. That was surveyed and that also towards the end of the project. So I don't know, that probably will take us a couple of months to get that through the works. We have to get a hold of the recorder and make sure they don't need something else. So that's kind of it. It's just been a lot of stuff going on out there, trying to push it forward. So right now we're still rolling at on budget and on time. So as long as we keep doing that, it's a good thing. All right. There's no questions there. I'll move on to my action items. Don't have much of one, but we have a few. B1A, I need classified resignation listed below.
Need a motion?
So moved.
First by Mr. Moore,
Second.
by Mrs. McIntosh, call the roll, please.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
Item B2, need approval for the classified employment of item A and B.
Need a motion?
So moved.
First by Mrs.
What-
McIntosh.
what-
I think you gotta take an extra roll there.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay. We'll move forward with that recommendation for 2A and B.
Who was,
Second.
First by Mrs. McIntosh, second by
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
call the roll, please.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
And Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Okay, item B3, need approval for item A, under supplemental resignation.
Need a motion? So moved. First by Mr. Dunkman,
Second.
second by Mr. Moore, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Okay, finally, my last action item, B4, items A and B, I need approval of supplemental employment.
Need a motion?
So moved.
First by Mr. Moore, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Jewell. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
And that concludes my action item.
Okay. Dale, do we have anything with going on in Columbus?
Lots of things going on in Columbus. No new updates since what we found out last Tuesday from the school board event that we had. No activity or no votes or anything like that on any of those items. But they are very busy up in Columbus right now, trying to figure out where we're headed with education.
Tammy's not here, so that's, any old business? Any new business? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
First by Mr. Moore,
Second.
by Mr. Duncan, call the roll, please.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dunkman?
Yes.
Mrs. McIntosh?
Yes.
And Mr. Jewell?
Yes.
96, 28.